Good morning. Welcome, YouTube. We're glad that you are with us today, friend. We are excited about recording our episode this week. I hope you're having a good week. We are almost child-free this week because our youngest three are off at camp this week. They went to Bible camp, and I know that they're having a great time. We're having a great time because we get a lot more time together.
And we're down to just one kid, so
yep.
That's always good.
Who is very independent.
Yeah.
Drives and goes and does her own thing a lot. So we get a little extra time to focus on one another.
The way our family was intended to be.
Yeah, just the two of us.
Yeah.
But anyway, we hope that you are having a great week. Today, we are going to be talking about narcissism. So that'll be an interesting topic.
Yeah, you know all about this.
Yeah, I do. But we are going to talk about maybe the narcissist in your family is you. So we'll see how it goes today. Anyway, we're glad that you've joined us. Maybe you have some experience with narcissism in your family, whether it's overcoming your own, or maybe you were raised by a narcissistic parent. Excuse me. Or maybe you are married to a narcissist. But either way, we're going to look into this and see what we can do about it. So join us today for our family meeting.
Gather round, everybody. It's time for a family meeting. The Family Meeting is a show that's all about family relationships. We're the Osterkamps. I'm Thomas. This is my wife, Lysandra.
Hello, and welcome to our family. Welcome to episode 201 of the Family Meeting podcast. Thanks for joining us today. On today's podcast, we're going to talk about narcissism.
Okay.
Yeah, we want to talk about what it's like to live with a narcissistic person. And we want you to take a moment to be honest with yourself about your own narcissistic tendencies.
Before we jump into that conversation, though, we're just less than 2 weeks away from marriage conference at Elyria Church in Elyria, Ohio. We want to invite you to come and be a part of that. We'd love to see all of our listeners from that Ohio Valley area. It can be a lot of fun. Join up together. You can get all that information on our social media channels. That's going to be August 10th and 11th in Elyria, Ohio, Elyria Church.
All right. Sounds good. We're excited about that. All right. The first thing that we're going to do on today's episode is to define narcissism. And Thomas hates it when I go to Webster for help, but we're going to do it.
Here we go.
Webster's
This is where we lose all of our listeners.
All right. Listen, it is important to understand what narcissism is and what it is not. Okay? Once we understand it better, we can recognize it in ourselves and in others, and we can make the necessary steps that we need to fight against this negative behavior.
Okay.
Okay, so we have to define it.
All right, we'll allow it this time.
Some people really don't know what it is, so we're going to define it, okay?
Well, if you look at the word and you go to read it, it's like narcissist.
Okay, so I type all of our episodes out and kind of
Narcissistic.
where we're going to go. And on today's episode, I had to type the word narcissistic, narcissism, all the words. And
How many times did you have to go back and change it?
I had to use spell check every single time. By the end of typing it 100 times, I still don't know how to spell it. Spelling is not my strong suit. We can't all be good at everything. And I'm really, really terrible at a lot of things, but spelling is one of the worst.
No,
so bad.
You're not that great at spelling, but you are great at looking into Webster's dictionary.
Yes, I am. It's really one of my talents. All right, so what does Webster's dictionary define narcissism as? All right, here we go. Excessive interest or admiration of oneself and one's physical appearance. Selfishness, involving a sense of entitlement, a lack of empathy, and a need for admiration as characterizing a personality type. So this is something that completely characterizes you. You're selfish, you have excessive interest in yourself, admiration for yourself, and even your physical appearance. That was the part that surprised me.
Yeah.
When it went into physical appearance, I always thought it was just somebody who thinks that they are great. And just thinks about themselves all the time. Lack of empathy plays into this. We're going to talk about that in today's episode too. I like this phrase though, and I think that this really explains it well. A need for admiration. And I think that is narcissism at its heart. They need to be admired. And we're going to get into that a little bit more. But we have some articles we want to look at today.
So this one is put out by the Mayo Clinic, all about narcissism. And it says this: narcissistic personality disorder is a mental health condition in which people have an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. Now, all of us look at ourselves as important. We are at our core selfish beings.
Yes,
right?
we are. Yes.
And so this is somebody who's got an unreasonably high sense of their own importance. Mm-hmm. They need and seek too much attention and want people to admire them. People with this disorder may lack the ability to understand or care about the feelings of others. But behind this mask of extreme confidence, they are not sure of their own self-worth and are easily upset by the slightest criticism.
Mm-hmm. And if you know somebody where, these things describe them, or it's like a checklist where you're like, check, check, check. Yeah, this is this person. The truth is that a narcissistic person is at their heart very insecure. And it is those insecurities that have them compensating with these narcissistic tendencies. All right, let's go on a little bit further in this article from the Mayo Clinic. A narcissistic personality disorder causes problems in many areas of life, such as relationships, work, school, and financial matters. People with narcissistic personality disorder may be generally unhappy and disappointed when they are not given the special favors or admiration that they believe they deserve. They may find their relationships troubled and unfulfilling, and other people may not enjoy being around them. And I would say that's putting it lightly.
Oh, yeah.
I would say if you've been around a narcissistic person, you really, really dislike being around them.
Yeah, I try to avoid these people.
Yes, like I don't want to hang out with them. I don't want to spend time with them. I don't want to listen to them. It's very it's very put off. You feel put off by it. You just want to be away from it.
There's nothing enjoyable about being around this type of person.
Yeah, and what's sad about it is there are some people who are married to this person.
Yeah.
There are some people who were born into this person's family, and you can't avoid them. You can't get away from them. And we're going to talk about, how to deal with that.
But narcissistic personality disorder affects more males than females. That does not surprise me.
Me neither.
It's kind of been my experience as well. And it often begins in the teens or early adulthood. Some children may show traits of narcissism, but this is often typical for their age and doesn't mean they'll go on to develop narcissistic personality disorder. So just because they start to show in their teen years doesn't mean they're going to become a full-blown narcissistic person.
Yeah.
And so part of that is overcompensating for the physical changes and insecurities they're going through, right? So at some point, your kids will probably go through different types of these things.
Right. And as Thomas said at the beginning of our episode today, we are all selfish. Like, no matter who we are, we have selfish tendencies. We are selfish at our heart. But an average person, a typical person, tries hard to fight against that and tries to overcome it, tries to care about people. But a narcissistic person does not. So let's look at narcissism in a parent-child relationship first. Now, this was really interesting. I'm going to share, just before we go into this, I'm going to share a little interaction that I had with somebody a while back. So there's a person in our lives that I've known for a long time. And once their children grew up and their children became adults, I had a phone conversation with one of their children. And this child now who is an adult said to me, "My brothers and sisters and I have realized that our parent is a narcissist. We understand that now that we're older." And I didn't say much because there's not a whole lot that you can say to help that situation.
You're like, yeah, they are.
But in my mind, I was thinking, yes, you are exactly right. I totally agree. And I've thought that for quite some time now. But watching these kids be raised by a narcissistic parent and then seeing them kind of overcome some things as adults, it's been like hard and sad, but it's also been really beautiful.
Yeah.
Because it's really beautiful to see what God can do. There is nothing that has happened in your past that God can't help you overcome. So whether you were raised by a narcissistic parent or, an abusive parent or whatever it may be, you can still have a happy, healthy adulthood. You can still have happy, healthy relationships in your own family because God conquers everything. God can do anything. He is a God of miracles. So don't look back at your past if you were raised by a narcissistic parent and think, I can't have a normal, happy life because I'm all messed up. Because that isn't true. That isn't true. So don't believe that. Go to God and ask him to help you to overcome this.
Well, I think it's important to be able to identify these tendencies, because whether it's somebody you were raised by or just somebody you got to work with or something else, having a full understanding. Wow, that was bad. Having a full understanding, though, helps you to be able to navigate these relationships, set up expectations and healthy boundaries and all those sorts of things.
Absolutely. Okay, so maybe you did have a narcissistic parent, or your spouse is, or the most painful of all, you realize that you are the narcissistic parent. That's painful.
Yeah.
When you realize, like, it's me. So how narcissistic parents influence their children. This is some of the effects that they have on their children. Okay. Now we're going to talk in a minute about the effects is between spouse and spouse, but this we're talking about if you are a narcissistic person and you're raising children, this is how you're going to affect your children and influence your children. And maybe you were raised by a narcissistic parent, then some of these will kind of come to light for you. All right, the first one is they have a plan for you. And that plan for you makes them look good, whatever that may be. So maybe they are big advocates of education, and education means everything to them. Then their plan for you is whatever makes them look good. So maybe it's their plan for you is that you become a professor, right? Okay, it might be an athlete. It might be a pastor, because it's all about making them look good. And they feel like you will make them look the best if you follow this plan. And so that is one way that a narcissistic parent influences their children, affects them, and tries to determine what will be the end goal of their life.
They undermine your interests and passions. And this goes beyond just like looking out for your well-being, right? Things, because often as kids or even as adults, we don't necessarily see all the dangers involved with certain things that may become interests or passions or whatever else. And so, but this is to undermine your interests, the things that you enjoy, the things that you're passionate about. It's like squelching that within you. And it all goes back to that control that Lysandra talked about, that plan. And so anything that doesn't fit within that plan, they want to squelch. They want to limit. They want to kind of cut that out of your life. And so it's all about control, right? And so if you're interested in underwater basket weaving,
a great passion of mine.
But that doesn't really fit into, hey, I need you to be a doctor so that I can feel this prestige or this whatever else. It takes too much of your time. We're going to squelch those sort of things.
Mm-hmm. Number 3, they instill fear and failure in you. So the fear is a way to control you. If you're too afraid to do something, then they can use that and control you to help you to want to do the things that they want you to do. And failure, they make you afraid of failure, believe that you will fail. And part of that is keeping you dependent on them. So if they can make you believe that you're going to fail, if they can instill fear in you, then they can control you. And they can make sure that you understand you are completely dependent on them. You're going to go to them for help. You're going to go to them for wisdom and guidance. And in all of these different things, it all comes back to it's all about them. It's not about you. It's all about them. So how does this affect me? How can this child benefit me? How can this child bring me some sort of gratification? It's all about them.
And this leads into number 4 here. They limit your sense of autonomy, that, hey, you cannot make it on your own. You cannot do it on your own. You need me. And that codependence there.
Right.
You've got to have me because you just can't do it on your own.
They influence your self-esteem and confidence in a negative way. So even if you get out on your own, you find that you have all these self-esteem issues. You don't have confidence in yourself because of the things this parent has said to you. They have maybe berated you or put you down in different areas, and it's in order to control you and to get the result that they are looking for.
Setting unrealistic expectations. And we've talked about this before, how important it is to have realistic expectations for the people in your life and being evaluated. But these people, these narcissists, are always setting unrealistic expectations that you can never live up to. And part of that goes back to instilling a sense of failure in you, that you can never quite live up to those expectations, whether that's grades, whether that's your chores, or whatever else, relationship, expectations. It's always set just high enough so it's out of your reach, and it just kind of reinforces that sense of failure and that sense of dependence. Well, you can't ever reach up to this goal. You need me. Like, you're not good enough. No one's going to care about you. Nobody's going to love you because you can't live up to these expectations. You cannot do it without me.
Number 7, they discourage your independence and risk-taking. So there again, that goes back to the codependence. You cannot make it without me. You need me, whether that is physically with you or whether that's like you need my wisdom, my intelligence, my guidance, and you always come back to me asking for help. Risk-taking. They don't want you to take risks. They want you to do exactly the plan that they have for you. And this all is going to come to fruition as you are an adult and you're trying to live your life now. All of this is going to come back, and it can really hinder you.
Number 8, never being supportive, but always telling you everything that could go wrong. So whether it's, hey, you didn't get straight A's, right? Because you didn't get straight A's, you're not going to be able to get the scholarships you need to get into this college, have this career. So you're just not going to make it in life. You're going to be living with me. I'm going to have to take care of you. All these sorts of things. And man, if you recognize these traits, whether it's from your parent coming down to you, that helps you to understand the kind of relationship that you have with your parent, set those boundaries and expectations and everything else. But think about yourself as a parent, okay? Are any of these tendencies showing up in the way that you're treating your children? And that's the thing that we as parents need to be on guard of. Because the goal is to raise up our children and equip them so they can be adults who can make an impact in this world. We want to move them from being dependent upon us.
Right.
And so we've got to be careful about, teaching our kids, proper fear and wisdom and all those sorts of things versus these expectations and things that we're talking about.
Right. And you may not be a full-blown narcissist, but I think all of us have narcissistic tendencies that can pop up. So maybe your issue is not that everything in your life is all about the plan that you have for your kid that makes you look good, but it might pop up here and there where all of a sudden when your kid wants to quit some sport, you are doing everything you can do to encourage them to stay in that sport. Why? At heart of it, it's because it'll make you look good because it's something that's important to you.
Right.
You care what your friends on social media think or what your coworkers think or whatever. Or maybe what your coach thinks because that was important to you to please your coach, and he's still in your life. And now look at my kid, they're doing this too. So it might not be that it is all encompassing and it's how you live your life, but it might pop up here and there. So it's some things to watch out for. Make sure that we are not influencing their self-esteem and confidence in a negative way. Make sure that we are encouraging them and uplifting them. Yes, being truthful and honest, but also encouraging and uplifting to where they can be independent from us. So just kind of be thinking about those things. Maybe you're not a full-blown narcissistic parent, but you may have narcissistic tendencies that come out here and there. So just be aware of that and be watching for it. All right.
So that's parent-child relationship.
Yeah. And it honestly, it breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to think about it. When you think about people who are actually being raised like that, being raised by parents who are so obsessed with themselves and all about them that they will do that to their children.
Yeah.
It's very sad. But like we said, God can help you overcome that if that was you. Okay, so what about being married to a narcissist? This would be so hard. We have done counseling with people and it's very evident very quickly that one of the people in the relationship is a narcissist. And man, my heart goes out to the person married to them. And so if this is you, I am sorry. We feel for you. We care about you. And if you ever need to reach out to us, you can find us on social media and you can reach out to us. At the end of the episode, you're going to hear a phone number that you can call or that you can text, and you're going to hear an email address that you can email if you are really going through this. You're living this. You're married to a narcissist. But today we're going to look at an article by Psychology Today, and we found this. Narcissistic partners usually pick fights over trivial matters. And this is something that we have seen in counseling people. Things that don't matter, things bizarre, the most bizarre things you can think of. All of a sudden, they are starting a full-blown war with their spouse. It can be as simple as where they parked the car. It's just very random. How long they took at the grocery store, whatever. All right, this is another description here. They verbally insult their spouses and tend to be intrusive and controlling. The controlling thing is very evident in a narcissistic spouse. They want to control everything you do. We have seen this to the point where the spouse is tracking the spouse everywhere they go. Why did you go to that house? Why did you go to that grocery store? Why did you spend this much money? It's everything, tracking and controlling. They often say and do hurtful things. In some of these happy-looking couples, the spouse of the narcissist is being physical abused. It must be physically abused, and is hiding the bruises with clothing or makeup. Even if nothing overtly terrible is going on, most narcissists feel free to ignore their spouse's requests and forget to honor any promises they made that are no longer convenient for them, such as their marital vow to be faithful or their promise to come home early for dinner. So it can be as serious as being faithful, or it can be as trivial as what time you come home for dinner. But they'll no longer keep their promises. It's all about what's convenient for them. And they may even try to convince you that they never said they would do that anyway.
Yeah. Their favorite phrase is, "You're crazy."
Yeah. You're crazy. I never said that. Mm-hmm.
If the non-narcissistic partner tries to have a rational conversation about what feels unfair, the narcissist is likely to become furious. And a lot of this has to do with throwing people off guard and all those sorts of things.
Well, and controlling them to the point where they are too afraid to bring up something because they know that it's not worth the fight they're going to get. So the easiest thing becomes to be quiet and not say anything, and then bam, the narcissist has their way.
People with narcissistic personality disorder are generally unwilling to accept any responsibility for anything that they are doing that makes their spouse unhappy. They may lie, twist the truth, rewrite history, or shift the blame and present themselves as the real victim. And they're very good at that. Mm-hmm. Very good at twisting and turning things around so that whatever they're doing, it's not about them, and as far as the wrong, that they are the victim. Whatever they want in the moment is usually more important to them than the actual truth or their mate's happiness.
Mm-hmm. And we've met people like this, and when you first meet them, you think oh, they're really nice, and wow, they've had a really hard life. And then you start to really listen and you start connecting dots where this situation, they were completely blame free. Oh, this situation, it was all this person's fault. This situation, they were cheated. Like and you start to add it all up and you're like, wow, this person's never ever done anything wrong in their entire life. And they are the victim in every situation. And it starts to cross all the boundaries. It goes into home life, work life, church life, friends, relationships of all kinds, parents, children. And all of a sudden you realize like, okay, there's one key here that connects all these dots, and it's you.
Well, and we just had a situation that was adjacent to us as a family that happened, and we sat down and we had a family meeting about the what had happened, and basically I walked through with our girls, and I'm like, all right, let's walk through the conversations that we've had with this individual, and it's never their fault.
Right.
It's always this person's fault, that person's fault, this person's fault, that person's fault. I'm like, somebody who's always blaming somebody else, like, this is a dangerous person to be around.
That's
this is
right.
a dangerous person to draw close to, because this is exactly the type of behavior. And it wasn't long ago where we had a situation. And so it's like, okay, we understand this about this person. So that's our expectations for what kind of relationship we're going to have with this person. It's going to be very shallow. It's going to be, as limited as possible. And we just can't trust this individual.
Right.
And so you've got to be on guard. You've got to be paying attention to what you say to them and what they say to you, and kind of take what they say with a grain of salt, as they say. But really just recently we had to have this conversation with our girls about somebody who is kind of circle adjacent to our family.
Mm-hmm. That's right. So being married to a narcissist can lead to emotional manipulation. And this is the thing that we have seen. All of the different tactics that they use and all of these different things that we've already described, the bottom line is that they are emotionally manipulating their spouse. They want things to turn out in a certain way where they look good, they feel good, they get their way. And so emotional manipulation is something that they will use at great length to control you. A constant need for validation. A lack of empathy. This is a real problem. If you have a lack of empathy, you no longer care about other people. You don't care how anything you do affects them.
Yeah.
And strained self-esteem, which the truth behind it all, when you pull back the curtain, is that the narcissist is insecure. They know at their heart that they are not a good person. They know at their heart that they've destroyed relationships and they have left a trail of ruined relationships and burned bridges behind them. They know that at the heart. And so it's all about this lack of self-esteem, these insecurities, and they overcompensate with this other stuff. Coping strategies like setting boundaries are important. Seeking support, practicing self-care, building self-esteem, educating yourself, and establishing an exit plan are essential for self-preservation. So our hope and our prayer for you is that you would be able to stay married to your narcissist.
Yeah.
And that they would get help and get healing from this problem that they have, that you can get healing from the emotional damage that's been done to you, and that you could live a happy life and a happy normal marriage, which, by the way, a normal marriage is where you're both selfish and you fight, but you get through it and you try to do what's best for the other person and you work on yourself. That's a normal marriage. So when we say like we want you to have a happy marriage, we're not talking about this idea of perfection.
Right.
There is no perfect marriage. You are a little narcissistic. Your spouse is a little narcissistic. Okay. So don't be listening to this and thinking like, wow, this is exactly how my husband is. I need to just get out. I'm married to a narcissist. I got to get out of this thing. Don't go to the extreme so quickly.
Well, and if you see little signs here or little signs there, that doesn't mean that they are a full-blown narcissist.
Right.
And so don't look at this as, well, I see one thing every once in a while. That means I need to get out. I'm like, no, you have these tendencies that come out of you as well.
Exactly.
But we're talking about like full-blown disorder. Like, is all these things to the extreme.
Absolutely. Right.
And so there is often emotional abuse taking place, verbal abuse taking place, and physical abuse taking place.
And sexual abuse. Yeah. Now, you'll hear us recommend the book Enough is Enough on this podcast all the time. And in that book, they do talk about even what to do if you're married to a narcissist, and how you can try to stay in the marriage. And then when is enough, where you do need to find an exit strategy. So maybe that's where you are. Maybe it's time to get out. Maybe you need to get yourself safe from this kind of abuse, and that's fine. But let's try to work on the marriage. Let's try to help our spouse before we run, right?
Well, and you do need to come up with a plan. And that's what's great about this book, is it comes up with a plan. And that is, first of all, recognizing what's taking place, the person that you're living with, this is who they are, right? They are a narcissist. They showed signs of the full-blown mental disorder, including abuse in some way, shape, or form that they are exhibiting against you and against your children. So it's about first of all, getting to a place where you are safe and your children are safe, and then getting help yourself. And this book recommends going to your pastor and having your pastor confront your spouse, and your spouse. The only way you're going to go back is if your spouse starts to work on themselves. Because here's the thing: a person with total narcissism, they're not going to change on their own.
No,
absolutely not going to change on their own. They may say things like, if you decide you're going to leave and you step away, they'll say things like, I'm going to change, and they may change their behavior for just a little bit, but that's just kind of a front to get you to come back underneath their control.
Right.
And so they've got to go to counseling. They've got to prove that they're working on themselves before you come back into the household. But this book does set a great plan for that. Right.
So it can be very helpful for you if you are in this situation.
So they need to get help, but you need to get help as well. And you need to go to therapy. You need to go to counseling. And if you're the one with the tendencies, you're probably not going to recognize it from a podcast.
Probably not.
But if you see some of these tendencies in you, that maybe I don't have all of them, but man, in this one area, it seems like I've got a little bit of issue to work on. And so don't be afraid to go to counseling. Don't be afraid to open up yourself and say, you know what, I'm kind of a controlling person, and it might be more on the extreme side. I need to get some help with this and figure out why am I leaning towards so much control in my life? Why do I feel like I've got to control every situation, every person around me? And just start to get some help in that. We do believe in the God who can do miracles, and so he can help you. He can help your spouse. Things can be different, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take help.
And there may be, you may be finding that you have some of these tendencies, and part of it may be because your parent was a narcissist, and these are learned behaviors and patterns that you're following from your family life. But that doesn't mean that you can't break free from them. Both Thomas and I brought into our marriage patterns of behavior that we had to break free from.
Yeah.
And it can be done. It can be done. But we encourage you to get help from a professional. Also, get into the Word of God. Okay? Going to the Word of God can be encouraging. It can help you as you walk through this journey of healing, because the bottom line is, whether or not you are the narcissist or you are married to one or were raised by one, there's healing that needs to take place in your heart. It hurts. Like, you have hurts that go way back. You have really deep hurts from things that they've said, from things that they've done. And you need healing. And God is the one who is the great physician, and he can help heal your very soul. So go to God in prayer. Ask him to heal you. Ask him to heal your spouse. Surround yourself with godly people who can encourage you in life, but who will also encourage you to do what is right. So if you're the one who is kind of having these narcissistic tendencies, share it with a godly friend who you know is going to hold you accountable and who's going to say, hey, I saw the way you just treated your wife. That wasn't right. You know it. Yeah, I needed to hear that. Okay, you're right. I'm going to go apologize. Somebody who can speak truth into your life. Give people who are good, godly people, give them permission to speak truth into your life.
Yeah.
When you do that, you set yourself up for success because you're gonna have a mirror put in front of you when you need it. And they're gonna say, look what you did. Look how you acted. Look what you said. And that's gonna illuminate it for you so that you can change that pattern of behavior. And if you do have these narcissistic tendencies, here's a verse that you need to memorize. You need to put it on stick-em notes all around your house. You need to put it on repeat, play, and hear it spoken into your life over and over. You need to meditate on it. Romans 12:10, be devoted to one another in love. Honor one another above yourself, because a narcissistic person is all about themselves. Me first, I'm the most important, my plan, my wishes, my desires, my goals, everything is about me. But this verse is the opposite of that. This is what God expects from us as followers of Jesus. Honor one another above yourselves. That means whatever my spouse needs, I put that above what I think I need. Whatever my spouse wants, I put that again above the things that I want. Whatever is best for my child, I put that before the thing that is going to make me look good. I'm going to let go of all of my plans, and I'm going to love my family members more than I love myself. I'm going to be devoted to them in love, and I'm going to put them above myself. That's the goal. And I believe verses like this can help someone who has narcissistic tendencies change their behaviors.
So family meeting tonight is going to determine whether or not you are a full-blown narcissist or not. Because somebody who's a full-blown narcissist is not going to be able to have this conversation.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
In a respectful and a calm manner. And so you're going to have one of two conversations, maybe both conversations, but one conversation is going to be with your kids. And you're just going to kind of go down this list that we talked about and, talk about, hey, do you feel like I have a plan for your life that is not about you? It's more about me. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like I undermine your interest and passions, or do you feel like I support and encourage you in what you want to do? Do you feel like I instill fear and failure in you, or am I instilling trust and confidence and success in you? Do you feel like I limit your sense of autonomy, or am I building that up in you so that you know you can go out there and you can accomplish what you want to accomplish, and so on and so forth? Do you feel like I influence your self-esteem and confidence in a negative way? Or am I somebody who helps build up and encourage you? Do you feel like I set unrealistic expectations? Or do I just set lofty expectations? Because those are two different things. This one might be a little bit more of a conversation and helping you understand if they feel like you're setting unrealistic expectations. Well, why do you feel that way? And versus, okay, this is why I'm choosing to have this conversation this way.
And I think a lot of times our teenagers or our adolescents can kind of feel like all expectations are unreasonable because they don't really want any expectations. It's unreasonable for you to expect me to do the dishes every day. That's a reasonable expectation.
You're saying, hey, do I discourage your independence and risk-taking? Or am I somebody who builds up that independence and encourages you to step out into the unknown? Am I never supportive, but always telling you everything that could go wrong? Or am I a person who supports you and shows you, hey, this is what could go right when you step out into the unknown. And so you're walking through and obviously all of you have children at different age levels. And so you kind of have to tailor the conversation to the level that your child is at. But as you begin to go through here, this will kind of show you some areas that maybe you as a parent need to work on. And it could be a hard conversation to have, but it could be so helpful for you. Because if you see there's an issue with one of these in the way that you're portraying things to your kid, it gives you an opportunity for self-evaluation and self-growth. And so if, for instance, they do honestly feel like you instill fear and failure in them, and you're not being very supportive, it's an opportunity for you to apologize.
Right.
And say, hey, I'm sorry that I've made you feel that way. Like, I don't want you to be fearful. I don't want you to think that you're going to fail at what you're going to do. I do want to support you, and I want to equip you to be successful in what you want to do. And so you're starting to have that conversation, and then you're thinking about that in your interactions with them as you parent them. Like, okay, what are some steps I need to take so that they feel like I am supporting and encouraging them? And then you're having that conversation with your spouse as well. But like I said, somebody who's a full-blown narcissist, they can't have that conversation at all.
Right.
And they will not have that conversation.
They reject even the idea that they could possibly be that way.
So if your spouse doesn't want to have the conversation with you, that's probably a high sign that the things that you've been feeling and thinking about them are probably pretty accurate. Mm-hmm. And that's when you need to take the steps to get help for yourself, first of all, and then come up and develop a plan so that they can get some help as well. But I'm just telling you, they will not get help and change on their own. Mm-hmm. It's going to have to come from an outside source. And so if you've not yet picked up the book, Enough is Enough, I think it's Dr. Clark, David Clark, I think.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Then pick up the book, if you audio version or whatever, and just work your way through it. And it'll kind of help you come up with a good game plan so that you can get yourself to a safe place. You can start to work on some of the issues that this relationship has created in you, but also help to work up a plan so that your spouse can get some help as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us today. Please go and subscribe to the Family Meeting podcast from your favorite podcast provider. And if you found this information helpful, please share this episode on social media and invite your friends and family to listen in with you.
To find more content and information Lysandra and I provide, you can go to our website, familymeeting.org, or email us at info@familymeeting.org. If you'd like to shoot us a text or call us, you can send a voice message at 904-257-3062.
And we want to invite you to join us for our next family meeting as we discuss leading your family and you yourself, having to have a reputation that represents Jesus well, and yet at the same time not allowing what people think of you to consume you. We want to be authentic. And so we're going to talk about that tension between authenticity and representing Jesus well.
Thanks for joining us today for this family meeting. Have a great week, everybody. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much for joining us and watching the recording of our episode 201. If you have maybe something more to add to the list or something to bring to light about narcissism that you've experienced in your own life, we'd love to hear from you. You can put that in the comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear your story, some things that maybe that you've gone through, whether it's with a partner, a parent, or somebody else. Sharing those stories with us helps us to learn, and it also helps get you some support and some community around what you've gone through. So if you're able to share those stories and those experiences with us, we'd love to be able to hear from them.
Yes. Thanks for joining us this week, and we will see you next time.